الله أكبر الله أكبر. In the name of the most merciful, for whom these words are said, we recount the noble seerah of his Prophet Muhammad. As Allah and all His angels send blessings on the Nabi, O believers, pray for peace and blessings on him faithfully. As-salatu was-salam ala al-nabi Rasulillah. 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 لا إله إلا الله 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 محمد رسول الله عليه صلاة الله. It had been 600 years since the earth had seen a guide, from the time of the Messiah who had not been crucified. But before he was raised up to Bani Israel, he said, after me will come a messenger whose name will be Ahmad. In the centuries that followed, humankind had gone astray from the message of the prophets and the pure and natural way. They had turned to man-made idols filled with ignorance and pride, taking gods besides Allah so that His oneness was denied. La ilaha illallah, 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 Muhammadur Rasulullah alayhi salatullah. All the weak ones were oppressed and many wrongs were seen as right. In the darkness mankind wandered till Allah would send His light. On a blessed day in springtime in the year called Amal Fil, in the desert town of Mecca was to come the final seal. Abdullah the Prophet's father never lived to see his son. Amina was honored by Allah to bear the chosen one. Praised in heaven and on earth, He graced the world that Monday morn. Allah's mercy filled the universe when Muhammad was born. La ilaha illallah, 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 Muhammadur Rasulullah alayhi salatullah. He was son of Abdullah, who was Abdul Muttalib's son of Hashim, then Abdul Manaf, the brave and handsome one, then Qusay, and then Kilab, then Murrah, then Kab, then Lu'ay, son of Ghalib, son of Fihr, or Quraysh as they would say. To Adnan, the father of the Arabs, trace his family tree, for it leads to Ibrahim through Ismail, his progeny. So his light was passed from noble loins through wombs so chaste and pure. Once it came into the world, it would abide forevermore. La ilaha illallah, 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 Muhammadur Rasulullah alayhi salatullah. As an infant he was suckled by Halima after birth, turned away by other witnesses who did not know his worth. Though the best of God's creation seemed in front of them helpless, still a day would come when they would turn to Him in their duress. Angels Angels bathed his heart in Zamzam and replaced it in his chest. Those around him knew this blessed child was different from the rest. Raised by Uncle Abu Talib after both his parents died. Though an orphan in his early years, Allah was by his side. He protected him and saved him from the evil and obscene. So trustworthy was he known to be, they called him Al-Amin. La ilaha illallah, 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 Muhammadur Rasulullah, alayhi salatullah. Clouds would race to shade him and the trees would bow down in respect. Those bestowed with sacred insight knew that he was the elect. As the prayer of Prophet Abraham and Jesus' good news, he was mentioned in the scriptures of the Christians and the Jews. He was noblest in his lineage in virtue without peers. He was loved among his people till the age of 40 years. While the people worshipped many gods, he knew Allah was one. In a cave he would pray to Allah, not seen by anyone. La ilaha illallah, 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 Muhammadur Rasulullah, alayhi salatullah, Muhammadur Rasulullah, alayhi salatullah, Muhammadur Rasulullah, alayhi salatullah. Till one night there came upon him revelation from Allah. Jibreel appeared before him as his heart was filled with awe. Then enveloped by the angel he was squeezed for breath, he fought. When the angel said recite, all he replied was I cannot. On the third time he was squeezed, he asked what shall I then recite? And Allah's eternal words came down, revealed to man that night. La ilaha illallah, 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 Muhammadur Rasulullah, alayhi salatullah. As the Prophet left the cave distressed for home, he made a start. There he found his wife Khadija, her support consoled his heart. Jibreel would come to him with revelation crystal clear. As Allah's beloved messenger, he had nothing to fear. So first quietly, then openly, the Prophet made his call, that the people leave their pagan ways and witness one and all, that there's no God but Allah, and by His will alone I speak. He alone is who we worship, and from Him all aid we seek. La ilaha illallah, 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 Muhammadur Rasulullah, alayhi salatullah. He would call the people to Allah and day and night implore, if you love Allah then follow me, He'll love you even more. Once the pagans threw some waste on him as he bowed down in prayer. They were laughing while his daughter cried, but he did not despair. For Allah is with those people who put all their trust in Him, and the Lord was with His Prophet, peace and blessings be on him. One by one the hearts began to turn towards the guiding light, as Islam rescued the downtrodden and gave to them their right. Though Bilal was tortured in the sun, Sumayya put to death, still they held tight to their faith, and they would say till their last breath, La ilaha illallah, 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 Muhammadur Rasulullah alayhi salatullah. After losing wife and uncle and the boycott of his clan, after Ta'if where they stoned him, came a gift from Ar-Rahman. As he lay asleep beside the noble Kaaba in the night, he was woken by the angel and then taken up in flight. Riding on Buraq, he made the journey that is called Isra, to the city of Jerusalem, to Masjidul Aqsa. There he led the prophets in a prayer and chose milk over wine, then ascended to the heavens for a tryst with the divine. Raised beyond the seven skies, so many wondrous sights he saw, till he crossed the furthest low tree for his discourse with Allah. Sent back on that very night, he brought a gift for his ummah. On the next day, Muslims stood with him to pray their first salah. La ilaha illallah, 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 Muhammadur Rasulullah alayhi salatullah. At the time of Hajj, the Prophet shared Islam with every clan. When the truth spread to Medina, the Quraysh devised the plan. As they hatched the plot to kill him, came Allah's divine command. For the message to continue, he would have to leave his land. And then he and Abu Bakr left their cherished home en route to Medina for the Hijrah with the pagans in pursuit. As they hid inside a cave, one time a pagan almost saw. But what do you think of two people when the third one is Allah? La ilaha illallah, 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 Muhammadur Rasulullah alayhi salatullah. While the people were awaiting him, at last the Prophet came. Light and joy filled all Medina, it would never be the same. Then from joining them in brotherhood and leading them in prayer, he made peace between the neighbors, teaching them with love and care. When at Badr they first met Quraysh, the angels came and fought. Then at Uhud, when mistakes were made, some lessons would be taught. They would fight for truth and justice while upholding chivalry. They'd show strength when they were weak, when strong they would show clemency. In the battle of the trench they chose to fight defensively. At the triumph of Hudaybiyah they used diplomacy. So the Muslim Ummah grew with every test that it survived, till the time to liberate the town of Mecca had arrived. La ilaha illallah, 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 Muhammadur Rasulullah alayhi salatullah. Marching into Mecca unopposed, the Muslims now were strong. When the pagans saw the Prophet, they knew that they had been wrong. For so long they had oppressed him, now they feared he would repay. But he said like Prophet Yusuf, there's no blame on you today. As the idols at the Kaaba fell, he said truth now appears, and the falsehood has but perished, falsehood always disappears. Then the people came to truth just as the prophecy foretold. For Allah had sent Muhammad as a mercy to the world. La ilaha illallah, 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 Muhammadur Rasulullah alayhi salatullah. Then he went back to Medina choosing life with his Ansar. But the day was fast approaching that they all had thought was far. First he told all his companions that this Hajj would be his last, to adhere to all the things that he had taught them in the past. Then when seeing off a traveler, these parting words he gave: when you come next year you might find just my masjid and my grave. When the time to part came closer, all the hearts were filled with fear. What will happen if he leaves us? In this world there's none more dear. In his final illness, Abu Bakr led the daily prayer. From his room the Prophet smiled, giving one last look of care. Then as our beloved Prophet lay in Aisha's arms, he spoke: guard your praise and fear Allah in how you treat your servant folk. Then he gazed towards the heavens and began to say softly: Allahumma gather me into the highest company. Allahumma gather me into the highest company. Allahumma gather me into the highest company. And with that the Prophet left this world, the universe shed tears. All the precious time they'd had with him had been the best of years.
أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله.
لا إله إلا الله، 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 محمد رسول الله عليه صلاة الله. How I wish I'd met the Prophet to touch his soft hands with mine, or to look upon his face from which prophetic light would shine, or to shield him when the rocks were thrown so they'd hit me instead. But my consolation comes in what Rasulullah had said: while my life was good for you, my death will be good for you too. I'll be shown your deeds, so when I see a sin, I'll pray for you. And he said, oh people, if you one day face calamity, find your strength by thinking of the pain you felt by losing me. When he missed his brothers, his companions asked, then who are we? Friends, he said, my brothers never saw me yet believed in me. La ilaha illallah, 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 Muhammadur Rasulullah alayhi salatullah. If you long to meet the messenger, then patience is the key. At the start of the hereafter, you will see him finally. He will be the leader of humanity on Judgment Day. After all, he was the messenger when Adam was still clay. When the prophets on that day will only say Nafsi, Nafsi, he will plead before Allah, crying my ummah, ummati. He will bow and praise Allah in words no one before has said. He'll be granted intercession as he lifts his noble head. He will beg Allah to pardon us, so sinner don't despair. He won't take his seat in heaven till his ummah joins him there. La ilaha illallah, la ilaha illallah, Muhammadur Rasulullah alayhi salatullah. Allahumma join us with your chosen prophet on the day when the world is resurrected with the souls in disarray. Let us gain his intercession when we're taken to account. Let us quench our thirst forever when we meet him at his fount. When a man once asked for heaven in the prophet's company, help me get you this, he told him, by prostrating frequently. If we fear that our good deeds are few and sin stacked high above, our last hope is, as he told us, you'll be with the one you love. Because loving is believing and our faith is not yet whole till we love him more than parent, child and every single soul. La ilaha illallah, la ilaha illallah, Muhammadur Rasulullah, alayhi salatullah. Such a beautiful creation mortal eyes had never seen, nor had women given birth to one so perfect and pristine, so complete in form and meaning, and from every blemish free, as if he had been created just the way he'd want to be. Best of those who ever lived or ever walked upon the earth, sinless since the blessed day on which his mother gave him birth. He was one of Bani Adam, but between himself and them was as though mankind was stones and as though he a priceless gem. La ilaha illallah, la ilaha illallah, Muhammadur Rasulullah, alayhi salatullah. Even if he had not come with any miracle or sign, just the sight of him would tell you that he came from the divine. Never should we think that by these words the prophet has been praised. Rather through his blessed mention, it's our words that have been raised. For Allah himself has praised him when he said so perfectly, truly you are on a station of sublime integrity. Joyous tidings to those who believed when he called to Allah. Since he was the best of prophets, we became the best ummah. La ilaha illallah, 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 Muhammadur Rasulullah, alayhi salatullah. La ilaha illallah, 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 Muhammadur Rasulullah, alayhi salatullah. La ilaha illallah, 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 Muhammadur Rasulullah, alayhi salatullah. More beloved than our parents is our dear Rasulullah. Allahumma send your blessings on the seal of Anbiya. Allahumma grant us Jannah with Nabi al-Mustafa. As-salatu was-salam alayka khayra khalqillah. La ilaha illallah, la ilaha illallah, Muhammadur Rasulullah, alayhi salat.